Well, we are assembled together once again on the marketplace because this is not a drill. Matthew Dellavedova is returning to the Hungry Jacks NBL for NBL 24. We have got a lot to talk about when it comes to that and some news around the Illawarra Hawks shortly as well. I'm Jack Heverin alongside the best newsbreaker in Australian basketball, Olgun Uluc from ESPN.com.au. And Olgun, Delly's back.
He is back. Jack, he's signed a 2-year deal to return to Melbourne United. He was there 2 seasons ago, had that 1-year detour with the Sacramento Kings, helped them back to the NBA playoffs, and now he's back. He's, the head of that snake again. He's their connector. He's their leader. We've spoken about, the local talent that this team has and the talent overall that they're bringing together. And Delly's the perfect glue guy to kind of bring them all together. And, I spoke with him this week and he's excited to, have the ball in his hands again, play that bigger role that he doesn't get to play in the NBA and gets to be that in the NBL.
I guess in many ways, this has been the best, worst kept secret in the league, hasn't it? Like Melbourne, from a long way out, there have been rumours that he was a prime target for them.
Yeah, we flagged this a few weeks ago. It has been, like you said, the worst open secret in the NBL up until this point. I think the big part of this is that it's a 2-year deal, and so initially he had signed that 3-year deal. Now he's back on a 2-year, so this doesn't feel like a one and done. It feels like he's here for that long haul for those 2 years. But yeah, everyone had an inkling this was happening as soon as the Sacramento Kings were ousted from the NBA playoffs. We knew that the first call that Dean Vickerman was going to make was to Matthew Dellavedova. We knew that Dellavedova was going to pick it up really, really quickly. And we knew that this deal was going to get done relatively imminently. This gives the Melbourne United, just elite local talent across the board. And now they have the search for an import to come.
Well, it looks like an all-Australian starting five, which we don't see much of in this league.
We don't. The last time we saw something close to this was probably this Melbourne United team 2 seasons ago that had Matthew Dellavedova as its point guard. That was a team that had Jack White and Joe Uluc Jr. and Chris Golding, Matthew Dellavedova. It had Caleb Agata off the bench. This is a really similar team, except you substitute Luke Travers in for Jack White, and it'll be probably a higher level import coming off the bench. But if you look at that team from 2 seasons ago, as much as you don't have import talent, which a lot of teams rely on, that team 2 seasons ago was the best defensive team in the league. It finished the season with the best record in the league, and so they were basically a win away from getting to that grand final and facing the Sydney Kings 2 seasons ago. They lost to Tassie in 3 games in Melbourne, but that was a team that had a lot of talent and was able to go all the way and be really good defensively.
And just another endorsement, I guess, for the way that it looks like Melbourne are going to play under Dean Vickerman. Last year, Dean's been pretty public that it wasn't exactly the way they wanted it to look. I think it's pretty clear how it's going to look now.
Yeah, if they remain healthy, if they're able to throw out a lineup that has Delly, Chris Golding, whether it be the high-level import they're chasing or maybe Tanner Krebs, Luke Travers, Joe Uluc Jr., and then off the bench, you can imagine, a bench unit that kind of runs at you, that has Shea Illy, has Ariel Hakporti, potentially has that import. There are a lot of creators on this team. There's better shooting on this team, and there's just better overall depth. And that's something that Dean Vickerman didn't have last season due to injuries, and I think due to sort of a mismanagement in recruitment. I don't think he recruited his imports well. I think with this season he's relying on what he knows, which is really, really solid local talent.
Well, we're seeing the depth chart now. There's not many holes left. What are Melbourne looking at for the remainder of their roster for this season?
So the key is that import spot. And I was at Hoop City last week and I helped conduct a press conference that involved Dean Vickerman, and he said flat out, we need a shooter. We want a high-level import, and the priority as far as the skill set goes is for that guy to be a shooter. One name that I'm told United has started engaging in talks with is Armani Brooks. Now, he was with the Houston Rockets a few seasons ago. He's played in the G League. I would consider him one of the best shooters outside the NBA. And so if you bring in someone like an Armani Brooks, that completely, that makes United probably the front runner going into next season, not even knowing what other teams are prepared to bring in. If you have a team that has Matthew Dellavedova and then 2 of the best shooters in the world outside the NBA on either wing, with the sort of creation that you can get from Luke Travers and Joe Lual Jr. And they're not even taking into account what they can do defensively with both Dean Vickerman running the show and then what Joe Lual Jr. brings, what Travers brings. This looks like one hell of a lineup.
It sure does. Big news for Melbourne United. They'll be very happy right now. To the Illawarra Hawks, we've sung their praises a lot, actually, Olgun, on Marketplace during this free agency period, and said that it looks as though they're pretty clear on the direction. Their roster has taken really nice shape with a couple of spots still to fill. And with that, I guess, comes the news late last week that you had of Jacob Jacobus with another extension to his contract.
Yeah, that's right. You got to think of last season. The Illawarra Hawks had the worst record in the NBL. But two things happened. One is the chemistry never seemed to fracture, which I think was important. And two, the team also kept competing. And so that was a credit to Jacob Jacobus and the way he was able to sort of keep that team together. And from what I gauged, speaking to people around the situation, ownership had an understanding of that. And they knew that season was effectively an anomaly. They had injuries to all four imports at some point in the season. They were playing their third string point guard, 30 plus minutes, throughout the season. And, there was a feeling that it wasn't fair on Jacobus. And so basically the initial 3-year deal that he signed has basically just been extended out. He signed a one year extension, basically put on the end of that deal. And so he gets another 3 more years, and they've retained the majority or the entirety of that coaching staff and added Justin Tatum to the end of it too, a player development focus for him. And so you can tell the Illawarra Hawks want to lean into Jacob Jacobus and the culture that he's trying to build in Illawarra. The first step toward that was also this recruitment this offseason. I think they made some really positive steps forward, and this extension for Jacobus is another one.
As always, plenty happening, Olgun. You're right across it. You can stay up to date with Olgun's Twitter and, of course, via the NBL social media and nbl.com.au. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon.